just for 30 days. Don't even stop eating white bread, white flour, white pasta, white rice, or grains, if that's what you eat. I don't eat any of those things, but if that's what you eat, don't stop eating them. Just switch to the organic, non-fortified, non-enriched version and watch what happens to your mood, your focus, your concentration, your short-term recall, the depth of your sleep, and your waking mind at night.
But the vast majority of wheat and rice and things that you do buy will have been enriched with folic acid.
All of it in the United States is, unless it's organic.
Wow. So if someone's buying a sandwich and you're getting it on regular bread, you're just getting a heap of folic acid.
Getting a heap of folic acid.
A bowl of pasta, you're getting a heap of folic acid.
Mm-hmm. Bowl of rice that's not organic, heap of folic acid.
And your body's like, what the fuck is this?
Your body's like, what the fuck? Just pay attention to your mood after you eat high amounts of some of those things.
Oh, believe me, I'm very aware. It's my number one weakness.
Yeah.
My number one weakness is bread and pasta. Like, so, if I do go off the rails with a diet, like I have a cheat day, that's what I cheat with.
Okay. So try next time you go off the rails eating non-fortified, non-enriched pasta, rice, bread, flour.
Well, I have absolutely noticed that when I've gone to Italy.
Yeah.
100% notice it. You
that's
eat the
why.
Pasta, it just seems normal. It does, like, you know, I hear about a lot of people that have gluten allergies and gluten intolerances, and now I'm wondering, like, what does that mean?
Well, the foods that contain gluten, very often the foods that contain folic acid. Remember,
Right.
44%. This happens to pregnant women too, right? You know, postpartum depression, which for the record can begin before the pregnancy is over. Sometimes I get slaughtered online for saying, oh, you're talking about postpartum depression before the pregnancy ends. Yes, the diagnosis of postpartum depression happens very often before the pregnancy, before the pregnancy is carried to term. So 44% of women have this gene mutation. What's the first thing their OBGYN tells them to do when they get pregnant? Take high doses of folic acid. Well, 44% of them can't process this folic acid. So what happens?
Why did they tell them to take high doses of folic acid?
Because they're told that folic acid prevents neural tube defects, which is patently false. Folic acid doesn't prevent anything.
And
methylfolate prevents neural tube defects.
Are they told to take it in supplemental form? Are they told to take it in form of foods that are sprayed with folic acid?
They're told to take it in supplemental form. If you look at the majority of cheap prenatal vitamins, right, the good ones, like Thorne, Pure Encapsulation, some of these big, really good big brands, they will have methylated versions of vitamins, right?
Okay.
They'll take the folic acid out.
Right.
Because what happens if you're pregnant, you have this gene mutation, MTHFR. Number one, you have a skyrocketing incidence of miscarriage. But then because you don't have the methylfolate that your body needs for the adhesion of the egg into implant into the uterine wall. But now she's pregnant and she starts to take a prenatal vitamin with 1,400, 1,600% of the daily allowance of folic acid. She starts to go nuts, right? Develops postpartum depression. Eventually the pregnancy ends. She stops taking the prenatal vitamin and the symptoms go away, but she still blames it on the pregnancy, not on the vitamin.
Whoa.
The truth is I have yet to see a peer-reviewed published clinical study linking pregnancy hormones to postpartum depression.
Now, is there a benefit to taking methylfolate in supplemental
huge
form?
benefit to taking methylfolate.
And how do you get methylfolate?
So you buy methylfolate. You get the methylated form of that nutrient. This is why I say if you look at 5 particular genes, MTHFR, MTRR, MTR, AHCY, and COMT. Dude, if you find that you have one of those gene mutations and you supplement for their deficiency, magic things will happen in your body. Because if you have that, for example, there's a gene mutation called COMT, catechol-O-methyltransferase. And, we all know people that are suffering from anxiety. If we haven't suffered from anxiety ourselves, chances are we know somebody who's suffered from anxiety. And if you really break down what anxiety is, right, a fear of the future, we have to understand that it doesn't require the presence of a fear for us to feel fear, right? So you could drive home tonight and pull into your driveway, and when you get out of your car, somebody's standing in front of you with a knife, right? So that's a real fear, right? Your pupils are going to dilate, your heart rate's going to increase, your extremities are going to flood with blood. You're going to start to have a fight or flight response, mainly because an area of your brain has dumped catecholamines, fight or flight neurotransmitters into your brain. Boom, now you start to have a fight or flight response. But you could also be laying on the 30th floor of a condo in bed, and you could just start thinking about getting eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
Okay, and the chances of a shark getting out of the ocean and coming up a 30-floor elevator, right, are zero. But you can have the exact same reaction. So how is it that I can have the same reaction to the presence of a real fear as an entirely perceived fear? Because it doesn't require the presence of a fear for these excess catecholamines to leak into the brain. And this is why the majority of anxiety that we have seen in our practices, that my clinical team treats, is coming from our physiology. It's not coming from our outside environment. In fact, if you ask most people that suffer from anxiety 3 questions, if you say, have you had it on and off your entire lifetime? They'll say yes. There's your first sign that it's a genetic deficiency. And then you say, well, can you point to the specific trigger that causes it? They'll say, most of the time I can. There's your second sign that it's not coming from their outside environment. And then the third question is, if you've ever tried anti-anxiety medications, have they worked? The majority of the time they'll say, no, it just makes me feel like a zombie. That is very indicative that this is a nutrient deficiency and not a mental condition. We have a lack of, yeah.
So do you encourage people to take methylfolate as a supplement? Or
Absolutely. I encourage them. I think
what's
everybody
the dose that they should take?
Well, it's weight dependent, but methylfolate about 800 micrograms a day is usually sufficient.
Is that something you take with food?
You can take it with or without food. It's a water soluble vitamin. So unlike vitamins A, D, E, and K, which are actually fat soluble that you need to take with food for them to be absorbed, you can actually take those even on an empty stomach, as long as you're not taking it with a bunch of other vitamins that cause you to be nauseous because it changes your stomach pH. I think every single person should be at a minimum on a methylated multivitamin. The basic raw materials that your body needs to perform the process of methylation. Because methylation is how we create neurotransmitters, right? I mean, we make serotonin from taking tryptophan, an amino acid, and methylating it into serotonin. We make dopamine from, phenylalanine and tyrosine. If you can't make these conversions, you have certain deficiencies. And yes, you can have deficiencies in neurotransmitters, which will lead to the expression of a mood disorder. You don't have a mental illness. You just have a lack of mental fitness. And this is why I think
That's crazy.
that we're so quick to say that we have pathology and disease or dysfunction, and then we go to chemicals and synthetics and pharmaceuticals. And I'm not anti-pharmaceutical, but what I'm saying is, before we diagnose somebody with a mental illness or an autoimmune disorder or with an allergy or a sensitivity or irritable bowel syndrome or any number of other conditions, we should ask ourselves what raw material could be missing from their body that could be causing this to happen.